The ring hit the pool deck like a gunshot, skittering across the wet tiles before vanishing into the drain with a final, mocking gurgle. "Will you marry me, Sarah?" Coach Harlan's voice cracked through the humid air of the natatorium, raw and hopeful, as if the words had been bottled up for years. I froze mid-lap, my goggles fogged, heart slamming against my ribs like it was trying to escape the water that suddenly felt too thick to breathe. That moment replayed in my head 1,000 times before I even hit the wall. His knee bent on the slick concrete, the velvet box trembling in his hand, and Sarah's gasp echoing off the vaulted ceiling like shattering glass. I'd been slicing through the lanes for hours, chasing that perfect stroke. But now the chlorine burned my eyes worse than tears ever could. How could he? After all those dawn coffees, the whispered encouragements in the dim glow of the equipment room, the way his hand lingered just a second too long on my shoulder during warm-ups. It wasn't just a proposal. It was a betrayal carved into the very pool we'd shared like a secret. I hauled myself out, water sheeting off my skin in rivulets that matched the ones streaming down my face. The team milled around the bleachers, clapping awkwardly, their whistles and cheers turning to murmurs as I grabbed my towel and bolted for the locker room door. Harlan's eyes met mine across the deck, wide, pleading, like a deer caught in the floodlights of his own mistake. But I didn't stop, couldn't. Not when every beat of my pulse screamed the truth I'd buried deeper than any dive. I loved him, and he'd just drowned it. The air in the locker room was thick with the scent of eucalyptus soap and defeat, the kind that clings to your skin long after the game's called. I slammed my locker shut, the metallic clang echoing like a judge's gavel, and sank onto the bench, head in hands. My name's Alex Rivera, 22 years old, a junior at Emerson State University in the heart of Ohio's Rust Belt sprawl, where cornfields bleed into parking lots and dreams get as flat as the land. I'd come here on a partial swim scholarship, chasing the ghost of Olympic glory my dad always talked about before the mill laid him off and the beer took over. Swimming wasn't just a sport. It was my anchor, the one thing that kept me from drifting into the same numb haze that swallowed him whole. But Coach Harlan? He was the storm that upended everything. Ethan Harlan, mid-20s, built like he was sculpted from the same marble as those Greek statues in the campus quad, with tousled chestnut hair that always looked like he just rolled out of a fight with the wind, and eyes the color of storm clouds over Lake Erie. He'd taken over the team last fall, fresh from some assistant gig at a D2 school in Michigan, all fire and fresh ideas. "We're not just swimming laps, gentlemen," he'd barked at our first practice, clipboard in hand, voice cutting through the steam like a knife. "We're rewriting our stories, one stroke at a time." And damn if that didn't hook me right then, pulling me under before I even knew how to fight the current. It started innocently enough, or at least that's what I told myself in the quiet hours before dawn. I'd always been an early bird. Couldn't shake the habit from high school, when Dad would blast the radio at 5 a.m. to wake me for drills in the community pool that smelled more like Band-Aids than victory. So there I was, first week of September, the air still thick with summer's goodbye, slipping into the empty weight room at 4:45 a.m. to grind out some extra core work. The coffee machine in the corner was ancient, a relic from the 80s with buttons that stuck like they were glued with regret, but it spat out the strongest brew this side of the Ohio River. Black, no sugar, the way it burned going down matched the fire in my lungs from the sets. That's when he walked in. Harlan, in gray sweats that hung low on his hips, a faded Michigan hoodie zipped halfway, revealing the V of his chest like an invitation I didn't know I was RSVPing to. He froze in the doorway, backlit by the fluorescent hum from the hall, and for a split second, I swear the world narrowed to just us. Two shadows in a room full of ghosts. "Rivera?" he said, voice gravelly from sleep, a grin cracking his face like sunlight on frost. "Burning the midnight oil already? Or is it dawn patrol?" I laughed, too loud, handing him the mug I just poured. Figured the coach might need fortification. Team's got potential, but we're ragged as hell. It was bold, maybe too bold for a kid still figuring out his place. But he took it, fingers brushing mine in a spark that zipped up my arm like static from the dryer. We leaned against the cinderblock wall, sipping in silence at first, the only sounds the drip of the cooler and the distant rumble of a freight train cutting through the fields. Then he started talking about his first big meet, choking on the blocks in front of a crowd that smelled like popcorn and disappointment. About transferring schools because the pressure crushed him like a vice. About how coaching wasn't about medals, but about pulling kids like us out of the undertow. By the time the sun crested the horizon, painting the windows in peach and gold, we drained the pot. "You're all right, Alex," he said, clapping my shoulder. "That linger again, warm and solid. Keep this up, and I'll have to start paying you for these intel sessions." I shrugged it off, but inside, something shifted, like the water in the pool after a cannonball. Ripples spreading, impossible to contain. Practices blurred into a rhythm after that. Mornings became our ritual. Me brewing, him bantering, the team trickling in later to find us deep in breakdowns of flip turns or taper strategies. Harlan was magic on deck. Whistle sharp, feedback precise, pushing us until our arms screamed mercy. But off the clock, he was different, vulnerable almost. We'd linger after sessions, him toweling off while I packed my bag, trading stories about growing up queer in straight-laced towns. Yeah, I said it. I came out in high school, right after Dad found my browser history, and instead of yelling, just sighed and cracked another bud. "World's hard enough without lies, kid," he'd muttered. Mom baked me a cake. Rainbow frosting, lopsided but sweet. Emerson was a bubble, progressive enough for pride flags on the quad. But Ohio still had its edges, sharp as broken glass underfoot. Harlan never outright said it, but the signs were there. The way he'd pause at stories of my ex, Jamie, the barista with tattoos like watercolor dreams who ghosted me after finals. "Sounds like he didn't deserve the ink," Harlan would say, eyes flicking away too quick. Or the late-night texts after away meets. "Proud of you tonight. Get some rest." No emojis, just raw honesty that hit harder than any high five. I started noticing the details. The faint scar above his lip from a childhood bike wreck. The way his laugh lines crinkled when he teased me about my caffeine dependency. God, I was falling. Slow, like silt settling in a riverbed. Until one day it was just there. Love, heavy and undeniable. October brought the first big invitational. A weekend slash through Indiana's flatlands. Hotels that smelled like industrial cleaner and regret. We loaded the bus at dawn. The team rowdy with energy drinks and bravado, Harlan at the wheel, metaphorically, since he delegated driving to the AD. I claimed the back row. Hood up, playlist heavy on the Nationals' brooding anthems. But halfway through Gary's steel skeletons, he slid into the seat beside me, thermos in hand. "Traded the pot for this swill," he said, passing it over. Our knees knocked, and neither of us moved away. We talked for hours, skipping corn-choked exits, the bus humming like a lullaby. He opened up about his family. Strict Methodist folks in rural Pennsylvania, the kind who prayed harder for straight A's than straight sons. "I was the golden boy," he admitted, voice low under the chatter. "Valedictorian, state champ. But college. It cracked the facade." He didn't elaborate, but his grip on the armrest whitened his knuckles. I shared about Dad's slow fade, the mill closing like a bad punchline, Mom's night shifts at the diner. "Swimming's my out," I said. "Keeps me honest." By the time we hit the hotel, the air between us felt charged, like the static before a thunderstorm. That night, after prelims where I shaved 2 seconds off my 200 free, we celebrated in the lobby, pizza boxes and root beer, the team whooping over viral TikToks. Harlan pulled me aside near the vending machines, his face flushed from the win. "You swam like you owned that pool today, Alex. Like you were born in the water." His hand on my arm again, thumb tracing a lazy circle. I swallowed hard, the words "I want to be born in yours" dying on my tongue. Instead, I mumbled thanks, and he grinned, that boyish, disarming flash, before pulling me into a hug that lasted 3 heartbeats too long. The meet was a high, golds and relays, personal bests that had scouts scribbling notes. But the drive home? That's when the undercurrent pulled. Harlan was quieter, staring out at the endless blacktop, fingers drumming the window like Morse code for regret. "Ever feel like you're faking it?" he asked suddenly, not looking at me. "Like the water's the only place it all makes sense?" I nodded, throat tight. "Every damn day." We didn't talk about it again. Not then. But those coffees kept coming, stronger, sweeter somehow, laced with the unspoken. November frosted the windows, practices turning brutal as taper loomed. I catch him watching me during sets, not critically, but intently, like he was memorizing the arc of my dive, the ripple of my wake. Once, after a grueling 5,000-yard main set, he tossed me a towel and said, "You're carrying this team, Rivera. Don't know what I'd do without you." The words hung, heavy as humidity, and I wondered if he heard my pulse spike. Thanksgiving break hit like a cold snap. I went home to Cleveland's gray sprawl, turkey and tension with the folks, Dad's eyes distant over the mashed potatoes. Texts from Harlan lit up my phone. Surviving the family gauntlet? Missed the brew, team slacking without it. I fired back jokes, but each ping was a lifeline, pulling me back to the pool's blue promise. When I returned, snow dusting the deck like powdered sugar, he was waiting in the weight room, 2 mugs steaming. "Welcome back, prodigal swimmer," he teased, but his eyes were soft, searching. That's when it deepened. We'd linger longer, conversations veering into the personal. Favorite dive bars in Ann Arbor. The sting of first heartbreaks. The fear of never measuring up. He admitted to a college fling that ended in whispers and shame. Back when I thought hiding was surviving, I shared about Jamie, how love felt like freefall until the splashdown shattered you. "It's scary," I said one morning, frost etching the windows like lace. "Putting it all out there." He nodded, stirring his coffee absently. "Yeah, but the right person, they dive in with you." December brought the midterms grind, practices bleeding into study halls where Harlan quizzed us on stroke mechanics over flashcards. The team tightened, bonds forged in shared suffering. Late-night pasta parties in the dorms, pranks with shaving cream in lockers. But for me, it was Harlan's orbit that spun everything. We'd sneak off to the campus coffee shop sometimes, away from the team's eyes, debating everything from climate doom to queer icons like Audre Lorde. "She got it," he'd say, leaning across the scarred oak table. "Love as revolution." His knee brushed mine under the table, and I didn't pull away. Neither did he. Then came the holiday invitational in Chicago, Windy City whirlwind, Lake Michigan's chill seeping into our bones. I crushed the 100 fly, touching first by a fingernail. The crowd's roar drowning out the doubt. Harlan hooped from the blocks, scooping me into a bear hug that pressed us chest to chest, his breath hot against my ear. "Unbelievable, Alex. You're unstoppable." The team partied that night in a dive bar off Michigan Avenue. Neon signs buzzing like fireflies, beers flowing under the radar. Harlan bought the first round, his arms slung casual over my shoulders, and in the haze of victory and hops, I let myself believe it was real. That the glances, the touches, the way he said my name like a prayer, they meant something. But reality's a bitch with a whistle. Back at Emerson, January thawed into a false spring, practices ramping for conference. Harlan grew distant, buried in meetings with the AD, his texts curt. "Good set today." I chalked it up to burnout, doubled down on yards. One evening, post-practice, I found him in the office, staring at a photo on his desk. A woman laughing, arm linked in his at some beach. "Sarah," he said when I asked, voice flat. "Old friend from home. We're talking again." My stomach dropped like a botched start, but I forced a grin. "Cool. She swim." He laughed, but it didn't reach his eyes. "Nah. Teaches 3rd grade in Philly. Grounded as hell." We didn't talk more, but the air shifted colder, despite the humidity. Coffees continued, but the banter dulled, silences stretching like shadows at dusk. I told myself it was nothing, that the spark was just fatigue. But doubt's a weed, choking the roots. February's conference meet loomed, pressure mounting like storm clouds. The team was peaking, relays sinking like clockwork, but my times plateaued, strokes mechanical. Harlan noticed, pulling me aside after a sloppy 200 IM. "What's eating you, Rivera?" His hand on my shoulder, concern etching his brow. I wanted to spill it, the jealousy gnawing like acid, the ache of wanting what I couldn't name. Instead, I muttered, "Just tired." He squeezed, lingering. Lean on me, all right? We're in this together. Those words haunted me through the snowmelt, puddles mirroring the gray skies as March clawed in. Together. It was a lifeline I clutched too tight, weaving it into every flip turn, every gasp for air. The team buzzed with conference fever, banners unfurling in the natatorium, playlists blasting pump-up anthems during dryland. Harlan rallied us with fire. Vision boards in the locker room, taped with cutouts of Phelps and Lochte, quotes scrawled in Sharpie. Pressure is a privilege. But privately, with me, he was unraveling. Late practices turned confessional, him pacing the deck, voice low, about the weight of expectations. Sarah wants the picket fence, Alex. Kids, dog, the whole Americana dream. And part of me wants that stability. I nodded, throat burning, forcing words past the lump. Sounds solid. You deserve it. Lies, all of it. But they bought me time. Time to savor the stolen moments. Like when he'd ruffle my hair after a strong set, call me champ with that gravelly warmth. The team shipped it as bromance, ribbing us over group chats. Coach's favorite, extra laps for the rest of us suckers. I laughed along, but inside, it festered. Was it all in my head? The way his gaze held mine during cool downs, the brush of fingers over lane ropes? Mid-March, the unthinkable hit. Dad's cancer diagnosis, stage 3, the kind that sneaks up like a riptide. I got the call during film study, Mom's voice cracking over the line from Cleveland. He didn't want to worry you, Mijo, but it's bad. The room spun, projectors flickering like faulty stars. Harlan found me later in the empty stands, knees to chest, staring at the still water. He sat beside me, silent at first, then, talk to me. So I did, poured it out, the fear, the guilt of being states away, the terror of losing my anchor. He listened, arm around my shoulders, pulling me close until my head rested against his collarbone. You're not alone, Alex, he murmured, chin atop my damp hair. I've got you. That night, he drove me home. 4 hours of Buckeye backroads, radio low on Springsteen ballads. We stopped at a diner off I-71, neon eat sign buzzing like a heartbeat. Over greasy eggs and bottomless Joe, he shared his own ghosts. His brother's overdose, the family's fracture. Losing someone. It rewires you, he said, eyes distant. But it doesn't end you. His hand covered mine across the formica, thumb stroking my knuckles. Time stopped. The clink of silverware fading. Just us in that booth, suspended. I leaned in, breath mingling, lips parting on a whisper. Ethan. He froze, then pulled back, gentle but firm. Alex, we can't. The rejection landed soft as snow, but it buried me all the same. Back at school, I swam like a man possessed. Times dropping, fury fueling each pull. Conference week arrived in a blur. Vans loaded with gear, the air electric with nerves. The venue was Purdue's fortress of a pool. Sold-out stands thundering like a rock concert. We arrived to the smell of fresh paint and ambition. Harlan's pre-meet speech a masterclass in hype. This is our canvas, boys. Paint it gold. I dove in the 200 free prelims on adrenaline and spite, touching third, the wall of mercy. Finals night, the relay anchored us. Me stroking final, crowd a blur of signs and screams. I flew, water parting like it owed me, and we won by a touch. Harlan's hug post-race was fierce, lifting me off the deck, our cheers mingling in the chaos. But victory soured quick. Post-meet banquet in the hotel ballroom, starched tablecloths, chicken dry as regret. Sarah appeared like a plot twist. Tall, auburn-haired, in a sundress that screamed East Coast polish. She materialized at Harlan's side, hand in his, beaming at the team. Everyone, this is Sarah. Visiting from Philly. Murmurs rippled. She'd flown in unannounced, a surprise for the champ coach. I forced a smile over my water glass, stomach twisting as she kissed his cheek, her laugh tinkling like wind chimes in a gale. The night dragged, speeches, awards, toasts that tasted like ash. I slipped out early, wandering the hotel corridors until I found the rooftop deck, city lights sprawling like a promise unkept. Footsteps behind me. Harlan, tie loosened, eyes shadowed. Hey, you killed it tonight. He leaned on the railing, close enough for cologne to tease, cedar and salt. I shrugged, wind whipping my hair. Congrats on the visitor. She seems perfect. He sighed, rubbing his neck. It's complicated, Alex. She's safe. Familiar. The word safe gutted me, sharper than any false start DQ. And me? The question escaped, raw and reckless. He turned, face inches from mine, conflict storming those gray eyes. You're everything I shouldn't want. Not now. Not like this. His hand cupped my jaw, thumb tracing my lip, and for a heartbeat, the world tilted. His mouth hovering, breath shared. Then he stepped back, cursing under his breath. I'm sorry. God, I'm sorry. I fled to my room, door slamming like a period. Sleep evaded, replaying the almost kiss, the what-ifs stacking like unpaid bills. Morning brought the bus ride home. Awkward silences, Sarah's chatter filling the voids. She stayed a week, dotting practices with cheers from the bleachers, Harlan's smiles forced but frequent. I buried myself in yards, ignoring the ache, the team's whispers. Rivera's off his game. Too much celebrating? If only. April bloomed cruel, cherry blossoms mocking the frost in my chest. Dad's treatments ramped. Chemo days blurring into calls where Mom's voice thinned like watered ink. Harlan checked in, texts laced with concern. How's he holding? You need anything? But the coffee stopped. He'd arrive with his own thermos, excuses about early meetings. Distance grew, a chasm widening with each avoided glance. The team sensed the fracture, morale dipping, sets sloppy. One practice, during a relay drill, I false started twice, Harlan's whistle shrill. Focus, Rivera. We can't afford mistakes. His eyes met mine, apology flickering, but too late. I confronted him in the office that evening, door ajar to the emptying natatorium. What's going on, coach? We were something. He paced, hands fisting his hair. Sarah's moving here. Job offer in Columbus. This real Alex, this thing with her. I need to try. Betrayal bloomed hot, tears pricking. And us? The coffees, the talks. Was that just pity? He flinched. No. God, no. It was real. Too real. That's why I have to stop. He reached for me, but I jerked away. Don't. Just don't. The door clicked shut behind me, leaving him in the fluorescent gloom. I swam until my fingers pruned, until the water blurred the hurt. But it lingered, a bruise blooming purple under skin. May's taper was torture, workouts light, but the weight on my chest heavy. Dad stabilized, a small mercy, but home visits revealed his frailty, bones sharp under hospital gowns. Proud of you, son, he'd rasp, gripping my hand. Don't let go of your fire. I clung to that, channeling it into nationals qualifiers. Harlan kept professional clipboards between us, feedback clipped. Yet in quiet moments, his gaze lingered, regret etched deep. Qualifiers came in a frenzy. Airport shuttles, hotel pools that echoed too loud. I qualified in the 100 fly by a whisper, the team erupting in hugs that felt hollow without his. Back home, summer loomed. Internship at a local rec center, coaching kids who splashed with joy I envied. Harlan announced his engagement mid-June, casual over email. Team update. Big news, Sarah and I are tying the knot this fall. Barbecue at my place Saturday to celebrate. The words blurred, nausea rising. I deleted the invite, feigned food poisoning for the party. Instead, I drove to the lake, tires crunching gravel, waves lapping like unanswered questions. That's where the quit letter took shape, in my head, then on my phone, typed in the dashboard glow. Effective immediately, I'm stepping away from the team. Personal reasons. Thanks for everything. Sent before dawn to his inbox and the ADs. No dramatics, just finality. His call came at sunrise. Voice wrecked. Alex, what the hell? Talk to me. I let it ring, water bottle clutched like a shield. By noon, texts flooded. Please, we need to fix this. But some breaks can't be taped. Summer unfurled like a bad sequel. Heat waves shimmering off the asphalt. Air conditioners wheezing in defeat. Cleveland streets baked, potholes steaming. But I found solace in the rec center's kiddie pool, teaching 8-year-olds the basics. Kickboards clutched like life rafts, giggles bubbling brighter than chlorine. "Mr. Alex, watch me dive!" Little Mia would yell, her cannonball a splash of pure chaos. Those moments patched the holes, temporary fixes for a heart duct-taped with regret. Dad improved enough for porch sits. Him in his recliner, me cracking jokes about team drama, omitting the gut punch parts. "Love's a marathon, kid," he'd say, eyes crinkling. "Not a sprint. Pace yourself." But pacing was impossible when Harlan's shadow loomed. He emailed once, "Post-quit. Doors open if you change your mind. Miss your fire on deck." I archived it, unopened, like a scar I poked at night. The team group chat buzzed without me. Pump-up vids for summer camp, memes about chafing in wetsuits. I lurked, ghost in the machine until I muted it all. Focus shifted, job apps for postgrad, therapy sessions where Dr. Lena unpacked the tangle. "Sounds like unrequited love wrapped in hero worship," she noted, glasses perched like a scholar's. "Common in high-stakes worlds like athletics. But you're grieving a fantasy, Alex. Time to mourn and move." Mourn I did, night scrolling Grindr out of spite, deleting profiles before swipes turned to stings. A coffee date with a med student named Tyler fizzled over lattes. His laugh was easy, but my mind wandered to chestnut hair and storm eyes. "You're elsewhere," he said kindly, bill split. Guilty as charged. Fall semester crept back, leaves carpeting campus in crimson regret. I switched majors quietly, psychology over kinesio, drawn to the mind's murky depths. The natatorium called like a siren, but I detoured past, headphones blasting hosier to drown the echo. Sightings were inevitable. Glimpses of Harlan on the quad, arm around Sarah, her ring catching sun like a taunt. Once, in the student union, our carts collided at the salad bar, olives scattering like shrapnel. "Alex," he breathed, face paling. "How've you been?" Polite, distant. Sarah beside him, hand on his elbow, oblivious. "Good," I lied, piling croutons like armor. "Congrats again." Escape was swift, pulse thundering. The wedding invite arrived mid-October, cream envelope in my mailbox like a grenade. Join us in celebrating Ethan and Sarah Harlan, November 15th, First Presbyterian, reception at the VFW Hall. RSVP card stared back, blank as my resolve. I burned it in the dorm sink, flame licking gold before the smoke alarm wailed. Dr. Lena called it closure. I called it catharsis. Nationals that year were a spectator sport for me. Streaming from my laptop, curled on the futon with takeout lo mein. The team medaled in relays, Harlan's interviews clipped and charismatic. These kids are the heart of the program. No mention of the ghost who'd anchored last year's fly. Pride mixed with ache. Proud of them, gutted by the void. Thanksgiving brought family. Dad stronger, scarves of hair regrowing like stubborn weeds. "Heard from your coach?" Mom asked over pie, her radar unerring. I shrugged. Ancient history, but Dad's eyes narrowed. "History's what you make it, son. Don't let hurt rewrite the good parts." Winter break blurred into numbness. Holiday lights twinkling like false hopes. New Year's Eve spent solo with a journal, scribbling unsent letters to Harlan. "You broke me, but I swam through it." Spring thaw brought change. A part-time gig at a crisis hotline, voices on the line mirroring my fractures. One caller, a teen swimmer outed by a teammate, hooked me deep. "Feels like drowning," he whispered. I talked him through breaths, strokes, until he promised to surface. Harlan's echo, repurposed. April showers flooded the fields, campus paths slick with mud. I ran them anyway, pounding pavement to outpace the memories. One trail loop near the river, I collided with him, literally. Harlan, in running gear, earbuds dangling, both of us sprawling into the underbrush. "Shit, Alex." He scrambled up, offering a hand I ignored. Bruises bloomed on my palms, mirroring the ones inside. "Fancy meeting you here," I quipped, brushing dirt. Awkward laugh. "Training for?" Life, he said, deflating. Sarah and I. It's off. Again. The words hung, a buoy in choppy waters. I nodded, neutral. Rough. Silence stretched, birdsong filling the gap. I miss you, he admitted, voice cracking. The team does too, but mostly me. My chest tightened, old flames flickering. You made your choice, coach. Turn, walk, don't run, but don't linger. He caught my arm. It was fear, Alex. Hiding behind the safe bet because loving you? That terrified me. Confession spilled then. His closeted years. The proposal, a panic move to appease family ghosts. I called it off last week. Told her the truth. Rain pattered, soft as revelation. I searched his face, vulnerable, stripped. And now, he stepped closer, water beating on lashes. Now I want to try. If you'll let me. I pulled away, heart a riot. I can't just flip the switch, Ethan. You quit on us first. Left him there, soaked and sorry. The river rushing indifferent. Finals week was a gauntlet. Exams blurring into all-nighters. Coffee my constant now, black and bitter. Graduation loomed. Cap and gown, a finish line I'd swum toward blind. The team reached out via a mutual. Invites to senior send-off. Harlan's name absent but presence heavy. I went neutral ground. The off-campus bar with sticky floors and nostalgia drafts. Laughter echoed. Hugs exchanged. But my eyes scanned for him. He arrived late, alone, nursing a soda at the corner booth. Our gazes locked across the foam. Electric, unresolved. He approached as the night waned, crowd thinning. One dance. The jukebox crooned some old soul tune, arms open. I hesitated, then stepped in, bodies close, sway tentative. I'm sorry, he murmured into my hair. For everything. Scent of cedar enveloped. Familiar ache softening. Me too, I whispered. For quitting. The song ended, but we lingered, foreheads touching. Start over? He asked. I nodded, tentative. Slow lapse only. Summer postgrad was rebirth, job at a Cleveland wellness center, coaching adaptive swim for differently abled kids, their triumphs small miracles. Harlan visited once, road trip excuse, us walking the lakeshore at dusk. Talks turned tentative, boundaries sketched like lane lines. I'm seeing a therapist, he shared, unpacking the mess. I nodded, sharing my hotline shifts. Helps me too. But trust rebuilds brick by brick, mortar of time. August brought heat, lightning, storms that lit the sky like warnings. One night, power out, we met at my apartment. Candles flickering, takeout tie. Conversation flowed easy, then dipped deep. Fears of forever. The queer tax on hearts. His hand found mine across the coffee table, deliberate, no pullback. I love you, Alex, he said, simple as a stroke. Tears pricked. I leaned in, lips meeting soft, exploratory. No rush, just connection. Kisses like breaths shared underwater. Fall found us navigating, him back at Emerson, me commuting weekends. Dates dotted the calendar. Indie flicks in Detroit, hikes in the Cuyahoga Valley, hands intertwined natural as tides. The team welcomed me back casual, guest coach gigs where cheers felt like homecoming. Dad met him over Labor Day barbecue, grilling burgers and questions. Treat him right, he warned, eyes twinkling. Harlan nodded solemn. With everything I've got. Yet cracks lingered, nights when doubt whispered, old wounds itching. A fight in October, stupid over scheduling, escalated to shouts. You always bail when it gets real, I yelled. He stormed out, but returned at dawn, coffee in hand. My brew, black. I'm in, he vowed. All the way. November's chill wrapped the Midwest like a caution. Frost etching windows with fragile maps. Harlan's wedding anniversary loomed. Not his, but the ghost of what almost was. Sarah's sighed. Polite cards exchanged. But the air hummed with unresolved. He confided over diner hash. She forgives, but I don't. I squeezed his hand under the booth. Forgiveness is a gift, not mandatory. Our rhythm steadied mornings with coffee rituals reborn. His place now ours on alternate weekends. Kitchen filled with the sizzle of pancakes and easy silences. But life's no straight lane. Curves came swift. Dad's remission held, but a scare in December, fever spiking, dash, rattled us. Harlan drove through the blizzard, wipers slashing snow, his hand steady on my knee. "We're Riveras," I joked weakly in the waiting room, Mom pacing nearby. "Built for floods." He stayed till dawn, dozing in the vinyl chair, waking to fetch coffees without prompt. Mom pulled me aside later. "He's a keeper, Mijo. Eyes like he sees your soul." Blush crept. Yeah, he did. New Year brought resolutions. Therapy tandem sessions, unpacking closets long sealed. Harlan's stories emerged. Prom night fumble with a teammate, buried shame. The Michigan coach who mentored too close, lines blurred then snapped. "I ran from it all," he admitted, voice thick. "Until you." I shared my fears. Abandonment's echo from Jamie, Dad's distance. "Love feels temporary," I confessed. He pulled me close. "Not ours. This is permanent ink." Spring training amped, him prepping the team for Max, me guesting sessions, our chemistry electric on deck. The guys ribbed. Coach's secret weapon, Rivera charm. Laughs flowed, but undercurrents stirred. A new swimmer, transfer from Pitt, Jasper, cocky with a killer breaststroke. Latched onto Harlan, post-practice chats lingering. Jealousy nipped, irrational but sharp. One night, over wine on his balcony, I voiced it. "Am I paranoid or?" He laughed soft, pulling me onto his lap. "Jasper straight as a ruler, babe. And even if, you're my anchor." Proof came casual. Team outing to Cedar Point, Jasper flirting with the cotton candy girl, Harlan's arm possessive around me. Yet betrayal's shadow loomed. Not from him, but fate. May's Nationals prep unearthed Harlan's past. An email chain from his Michigan days, leaked by a bitter ex-colleague to the athletics board. Accusations flew. Inappropriate conduct with athletes. Vague but venomous, dredging the old mentor fling. Scandal hit the wires. Emerson coach under investigation amid grooming claims. Reporters swarmed campus. Mics thrust like spears. Harlan holed up, calls unreturned. His fire dimmed to embers. I stood by him, fierce statements to the AD, vouching his character in meetings that smelled of bureaucracy and doubt. "It's bullshit," I told the panel, voice steady. "Twisted history from a guy with an ex." Evidence mounted. Timelines mismatched. The ex-coach's vendetta clear. But the toll carved deep. Harlan withdrawing, nights staring at ceilings, whiskey his temporary tide. "What if they take it all?" He'd whisper, body curled against mine. I trace his scars, literal and not. Then we rebuild. Together. The investigation dragged into summer. Clearance in July. Exonerated but scarred. Harlan resigned anyway. "To protect the program," he said. But I saw the defeat. Job hunt followed. Assistant gigs in Indiana. Interviews laced with side-eye. We relocated tentative, me landing a counselor's spot at a Dayton high school. Him coaching club in Cincinnati. Distance tested. Weekends bridged by drives. Calls laced with longing. "Miss your coffee," he'd text at 2 a.m. I'd reply with voice notes. Brewing rituals shared via video. Fall anchored us in the Queen City. Row house rental with creaky stairs. Backyard fire pit for esmores and stories. Harlan's club team bloomed. Kids with wide eyes and wild dreams. I mentored guidance sessions, queering the curriculum subtle, pride resources tucked in drawers. Holidays healed. Dad toasting Harlan at Thanksgiving. To second chances. Mom's tamales, laughter echoing. But climax brewed slow, a storm gathering. December brought Sarah's return. Not vengeful, but vulnerable. A coffee meet in neutral Columbus. Harlan confiding. She's struggling. Miscarriage, job loss. Needs a friend. I nodded, trust a muscle flexed. Go. Be the man I know. He returned drained but grateful, hugging me fierce. You're my rock, Alex. Jealousy flickered, but I quashed it, therapy tools sharp. Instead, I planned surprise. Weekend getaway to the Smokies. Cabin with a hot tub under stars. We hiked trails misty with fog. Hands linked, breath sinking. One evening, Fire crackling, he knelt. Not with a ring, but a promise. Marry me? Not for show, but us. Forever. Tears welled. I pulled him up, kissing deep. Yes, all in. Wedding whispers started small, beachside in June, Ohio shores standing in for oceans. Invite selective. Family, core team, Dr. Lena as officiant. But conflict crested unexpected. Harlan's folks, the Pennsylvania Methodists, RSVP'd no. Prayers, but can't condone. Rejection stung, old wounds reopening. He crumbled in my arms, sobs muffled in my shirt. They'll never see me, the real me. I held him through the night, whispering, we do, that's enough. Resolution came humanistic. A letter from his mom, postmarked late. We watched the live stream. Beautiful, proud, even if words fail. Not full mending, but a crack for light. Dad's health held. Mom's garden thriving with Harlan's green thumb. June's sun gilded the lakeshore. Waves lapping the pebble beach like applause deferred. Our wedding was intimate. 30 souls under a driftwood arch. Vows exchanged with sand between toes. The officiant's words weaving love's quiet revolution. Ethan and Alex, Dr. Lena intoned, eyes twinkling. You've swum through storms. May your shared current carry you home. Rings slipped on, simple titanium bands, engraved with anchor and storm. And cheers erupted, bubbles from the team's stash popping like victory pops. Harlan's kiss was salt-tinged, fierce with promise, pulling me under in the best way. Dad clapped hardest. Mom dabbing tears with a hanky embroidered from her abuela. Jasper, now assistant coach, hooped loudest, toasting with root beer. To the dynamic duo, honeymoon was low-key. Cabin in the Hocking Hills, hikes through hemlock cathedrals. Nights tangled in flannel sheets, bodies mapping familiar shores. We talked futures, adoption dreams, maybe fostering teens like we'd been, queering the family script. No picket fences, Harlan murmured one dawn. Coffee steaming between us on the porch. Just us, building something real. I leaned into him, the world vast and kind. Back to routine, life layered on. Harlan's club thriving, nationals births for his prodigies. My counseling caseload swelling with kids navigating their own undercurrents. We mentored joint. Swim clinics for LGBTQ plus youth. Safe spaces where splashes drown shame. One boy, 14 and terrified, confided post-session. Coach H, Mr. Rivera, y'all make it seem possible. Harlan ruffled his hair, voice thick. It is kid, one stroke at a time. Challenges ebbed and flowed, Harlan's interviews turning offers. A head coaching gig at a small college in Kentucky. We waited, uproot or roots. Chose compromise, commute, then relocate together. Our row house sold to fund a starter home with a pool in the yard. Dad's cancer-shadowed yearly scans? Clean but vigilant. His visits filled with grandkid jokes. When do I get to spoil some mini Riveras? We'd laugh, timelines loose but hopeful. Betrayals echo faded, transmuted to growth. Sarah reconnected sporadic. Brunch in Cincy. Her new partner a soft-spoken librarian. Stories of healing shared over mimosas. You were right to fight for it, she told Harlan, hugging goodbye. No malice, just humans untangling knots. Years stacked like medals. 5 in, adopting Luca, a wiry 12-year-old with a breaststroke like lightning and questions sharper than dives. 2 dads? Cool. He shrugged on day 1, but nights brought the work. Bedtime stories of our meets, therapy for his foster scars. Harlan coached him gentle, me counseling the fears. Luca's first meet win? Gold around neck, hugs triple, tears mixing with pool water. A decade on, Emerson called Harlan back. Head coach, prodigal returned. The scandal a footnote in success stories. I joined adjunct, psych electives laced with resilience tales. The natatorium gleamed renovated. Lanes echoing our ghosts. Opening practice, he blew the whistle. Eyes finding mine in the stands. Let's rewrite some stories, team. Nods all around, including Luca's from the junior squad. Reflections came quiet. Anniversaries on that beach, toes in surf, coffee thermos shared. Remember the proposal? I tease, ring glinting. He'd grown, pulling me close. Worst dive of my life. Laughter bubbled, then softened. Best recovery, though. Dad passed gentle, spring of our 15th. Lungs giving after a lifetime's fight. Funeral was lakeside, swimmers in attendance, toasts to his grit. Harlan spoke. He taught Alex to swim through anything. We all could learn from that. I grieved held, love a buoy. Humanistic close. No tidy bows, but grace in the mess. We built a life, flawed, fierce, full of lapse and love. The pool taught us. Not every stroke perfect, but persistence parts the water. And in each other's wake, we found home. Not a finish, but the endless blue ahead.